We're here to talk about engaging your donors through powerful storytelling. My name is Aretha Simons. I'm the webinar producer here. I'm going to show you how you can engage on the next slide, and then I'm going to move out of the way for our speakers, Jason and Alexis. You already know if you need the closed caption, hit the CC button if you want to follow everybody and see the writing on the screen. We are recording this. You're going to get the slides and the video probably later today or early in the morning. Use the chat to just conversate with each other. We would love if you put the questions in the Q&A though. It always helps us kind of gather everything and answer the questions at the end. Or these guys are professionals. They'll probably grab your question through the chat. Who knows? But I'm going to turn this over to Tap Network. Jason Spangler is going to take us in. Have a great webinar, Jason and Alexis.
Thank you, Aretha.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Excited to meet you. I know I've been on quite a few, and I think Alexis was on, if it wasn't the one last month, it was a couple weeks back. So nice to meet you both. My name is Jason Spangler. I'm the Director of Business Development at Tap Network. I've about nearly 2 decades of experience in both sales and business development. I do a lot of messaging, et cetera, with clients just to ensure that they can really grow and scale at a sustainable rate and that they can do that internally without running into big hurdles. Alexis, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Sure. Welcome, everyone. I'm Alexis Kenny. I have about 20 years also of experience in marketing, communications, public relations, events, sort of the full spectrum in marketing and comms, both on the agency side and in both corporate and nonprofit. And most recently, before joining Tap Network as a senior marketing account manager, I sat maybe where many of you are now in a non-for-profit, managing a small team and a small budget, trying to accomplish as much as we can with limited resources and limited time and big goals. So I understand where many of you are coming from and looking forward to talking to you today.
I think that's a super important topic, Alexis, because everyone's always so conscious of budget, but they never think of the time aspect. And time is often the biggest limiter where people are wearing 20 to 25 different hats. And man, time gets in the way and your mission stagnates because you just don't have time to actually work on the mission. You're putting out fires. So a little bit about our company. So Tap Network is a full service digital marketing and technology agency that's partnered with TechSoup for a little over a decade now. Over the years, we've helped provide vast amounts of marketing thought leadership and expertise, not only to TechSoup, but also thousands of their members. So we work hand in hand with both. If you're unfamiliar, underneath that services tab on the website, the digital marketing, the website services, and even some of the AI services is all facilitated by our team. If you have any interest in reaching out on those, odds are you'll probably end up booking a call with me myself, and would love to learn a little bit more about your organization. But enough about us. We want to talk today about storytelling. I'm going to kick it over to Alexis to go over the agenda.
Sure. So what we're hoping to go through with you today is a brief overview of why storytelling matters, some elements of nonprofit storytelling. We're going to run a workshop on brand story telling, and then we're going to connect storytelling to how to implement it into your fundraising and marketing. And then we've got some time for some questions and some resources that we'll go through with you. So we will get right into it. Why does storytelling matter to nonprofits? So storytelling, we all know what storytelling is. It's how to clarify your message so people listen. Storytelling is an ancient narrative, right? It's always formulaic. So a clear brand story is one of the most powerful tools that a nonprofit can use. It connects people with stories, not statistics. And a compelling story can make your mission feel real and emotional and memorable. And donors, they want to be a part of your story. They want to be the hero who helps create change. And a strong brand story can show them how to do this. So clarity can build trust with people. And when people understand who you serve, the problem you're solving, and how they can help with that, they're more likely to want to get involved and support you. So this story can drive action. And a well-told story naturally leads to action, more donations, more volunteers, greater advocacy, because people can see a role in their story for themselves. So your brand story isn't just marketing, it's how you are inviting people to become part of the change that they want to see. So we will get right into it. Why does storytelling matter? Storytelling creates emotional connections. It is more of an emotional connection than reading statistics, as you can all see for yourselves. It makes your cause more relatable to people. It makes your mission, um, it humanizes your mission, and it motivates people to get involved with you. So what does storytelling look like? And how can we create our story? There are many elements to an effective non-story. We'll go into the next slide. Into an effective nonprofit story. Stories can transform statistics into human experiences. And at TAP Network, we use a variety of different frameworks depending on our clients' needs. There's many different ways you can tell stories, and stories are quite, and storytelling is quite a hot topic at the moment. I don't think you can go on LinkedIn or scroll through podcast streams without hearing about storytelling. So there are lots of different frameworks. Today, we're going to use a framework called StoryBrand by David Miller. That is one of the frameworks that we like. We're going to position the donor as the hero, your organization as the guide. The goal is to craft a compelling narrative that motivates action, okay? In this framework, there's 7 elements. Element number 1 is a character. So your audience, the donor, it could be a partner, it could be the community. We're gonna focus on a donor in this particular example. Your audience is the donor who wants something. The character has a problem. The problem is a challenge that's preventing them from getting it. Then they meet a guide. So your organization steps in as the guide who gives them a plan. And that plan is a clear, simple solution. And you call them to action. And that action is a direct ask or invitation, a clear call to action that helps them avoid failure. And that is showing them what's at stake. And step number 7 is it ends in success. So you paint the picture of a better future. So I'm going to give you a pro tip here. In what you do, and this is different than the for-profit world usually, in the nonprofit world, you usually know your hero in this story. You know your audience before you're telling this story because they're somehow connected with you. Usually, they have a connection with you in some way. They've been to an event, they subscribe to your newsletter, they follow you on social media, they're a friend or a family of a beneficiary, they're a community partner, they're somehow connected with you already and they care about you already. They care about your mission, your organization, but they may not have taken action yet because they need clarity. So they don't need a hard sell, they need some clarity. And they want to feel like their voice and their support matters. So your story needs to meet them where they are. So your job is to tell a story that deepens their connection with you and shows where they fit into your mission. So what does this type of storytelling look like? And how do we create this type of story? We're going to look at an example of nonprofit storytelling using this formula. And this example we're going to look at today is the American Heart Association. So we're just going to see how this 7-step formula plays out using the American Heart Association. Step 1, a character. Your supporter is the hero. You followed our work, shared our posts, you talk about heart health with your friend. You're here because this matters. You want to make the hero wants to make a meaningful difference and save lives in the community. You care about about what's going on with heart health, but you have a problem. You know that the hero knows that heart disease remains America's #1 killer, but can one person actually make a difference? The hero's problem is, I know every 34 seconds heart disease claims another life, but despite this progress, America's #1 killer is affecting families everywhere. But can I make a difference?
And Alexis,
Enter.
I was going to
Oh,
say,
go ahead, Jason. Yeah.
I think that's the crux here is because they have this problem, but they can't move because they don't know how they, as one person, can really push that needle forward. And so that's where you really have to dig in and get into the relevance of what your missions do. What is that dream or aspiration that you share with the character? And then that leads into that next piece. I'll wait. Do you
Yeah.
have anything else to add? But I love this part.
Yeah. In walks the guide, and that's you. This is your organization. You're the guide there to take the hero, the main character, the donor. You're here to show them how they can get involved. The American Heart Association, they've been doing this. They've been for over a century. The American Heart Association's been at the front lines, advancing research, training everyday heroes in CPR, shaping life-saving policy. But we're not the ones saving lives. You are. We're simply here to help you turn your care into action. So we're the guide here to help you make a difference. We're going to give you a plan. Here's how you can help. We make it simple. Learn a life-saving skill, fund breakthrough research, or use your voice to push for healthier communities. We're giving our hero a plan, and we're calling them to action, a strong call to action. Donate now.
And I think coming in here to the plan, it matters because the plan is something that they can't do that themselves. Like they can't drive critical research for new treatments on their own. That's not something they can reasonably get behind. But by joining you, or in this case, the American Heart Association, they're able to effectively be more impactful with each dollar they donate or their time they donate, in many cases. So we'll go to the next piece, but I think it's important to see the relevance of why it's so important they go with you because you're making it easy for them to realize that dream or aspiration of helping make a change without requiring their permanent involvement or all their time that they can't otherwise give.
But then the next point is a strong call to action. You need to be explicit in what you're telling them to do. Donate now. So we're not saying learn more, we're saying donate now. Your donation of $50 could provide CPR training to 10 people, or sign up to learn CPR yourself. Every action counts. So we're giving them some options, but we're calling them to action right now. That helps them avoid failure. What happens if we do nothing? Every 34 seconds, heart disease claims another life. We're reminding them that without their support, research stalls, fewer people receive care, more families face heartbreaking loss. We're reminding them what's at stake if they don't get involved. So that's another important piece. Remind them what's at stake if they don't help. And then step number 7, our last step, we end in success. The future you can help create. Together, we can save more lives. Your donation today will drive critical research, improve care, and empower lifesavers. So we're reminding them in the end, we're getting involved ends in success. Donate now, help defeat heart disease for good. It all ends in success. So there's our 7-step story with them as the hero and the American Heart Association as the guide. We're never the hero as the organization. We're not the hero, we're the guide. The donor's the hero. So that's just one example of a story using that formula. Now we're just going to take you to a quick poll. And this poll, I just want you to write in the chat, answer with an A, B, or C. And we just want to ask you, how do you feel about engaging your donors through your brand story? Do you feel that you have it mastered? If you'd say so, drop an A in the chat. If you'd say sometimes, but you say it a bit differently each time, um, type a B in the chat. And if you would say no, I fumble through and ramble on, type a C in the chat. So this is about how do you feel you can engage your donors through your brand story. Jason, I would love to see what you think in the chat.
So we get a lot of B's and C's, which is not surprising. I think distilling your mission and your relevance down to a couple of sound bites can be very challenging, especially when you try to do like more of an elevator pitch. So even taking
Yeah,
something shorter, it's difficult because ultimately, when we're talking with clients and we're engaging with prospects or your target audience, you're typically on a cell phone. It's done through a small digital means where you're vying for a super small amount of not only their attention, but also their visual field. So you can't have it be like some crazy funny play on words. It can't be something that's
no.
distracting or something they have to think hard on. It's something that's got to be clear and concise. And
Yeah, and genuine. And I think when you just said funny play on words, it absolutely has to be genuine and true to your mission and true to your audience. And as we said, this audience, you already know them. You know who they are. They already care about you. This is a great transition into Jason's workshop. So, Jason, I'll turn it over to you if you want to guide everyone through the workshop that we have planned for them.
sure. No, no problem. Well, excited. Hopefully that was pretty helpful. Again, this is a very common thing we get when people come in the door asking for help in many of the other digital areas, because while your messaging vehicle varies by your target audience, whether it's your website, it's your social media, it's doing posters, but your message should send the same message across all those channels, regardless, because it needs to ladder up to that core dream or aspiration for why you started a nonprofit to begin with, because that's what people are going to rally behind. That's the people that are truly your target audience, what they're going to believe in and what they're going to agree with. Because if they don't, they probably aren't right for you. So no matter where you kind of landed on these choices, you're in the right place today. If you've mastered it, great. We'll help you sharpen the storytelling even further. If you're sometimes inconsistent, we can try to help you kind of get a little bit more clear, concise, or more consistency. And if you feel like you're fumbling or rambling, don't worry. I mean, I think by the end of the workshop, we'll give you enough of a formula to where you can get in and be dangerous and then start working with this. And talking about Donald Miller, one of the things that I liked watching some of his material in the past is he says, go to a coffee shop, put all this mission out, walk up to a random stranger, just ask him, does this make sense? This is what I do. Does it make sense? They don't know you from Adam. They'll give you an honest answer. See how it's received. If it's received well, great. Run with it. If it creates a lot of confusion, yeah, you probably have some work to do. So hopefully we'll help you guys with that some today as well. But so if you don't have it perfect today, this is just about getting that first version down, and then you can refine it over doing things like that, or coming and meet with people like ourselves, or working with with others. For the exercise, I would like everyone to start kind of typing these responses down, but hold off on posting them in chat until the end, because I want people to be able to see the full breakout of what you come up with real time. So just place a colon between each of the 7 steps, and then we'll kind of, Alexis and I can kind of review, give our ideas and thoughts, and pick out some of the better ones that we like. So for the first step, oh, let me switch the slides 1 second. For that first step, it's who is your hero? First, think about the person that you serve or the person you want to reach. Someone that's probably like your founder or someone that started the mission. We're going to call them the hero of the story. Since today we're focusing on donors, your hero is going to be a potential donor. Just another, yes, volunteers are similar. They're donating time instead of monetary resources, or partners could be donating, connections that could help bolster you. So I think messaging is similar, but it still can be specific. So let's focus on donors for today. If I were to give an example, so if you're like in a literacy nonprofit, your hero might be someone that has a child or grandchild who struggles with reading. So it could be a parent, a grandparent. They care deeply because they've seen firsthand the frustrations and how hard it can be, but they understand the implications of learning to read and how it directly controls, their life and the way they grow. And we oftentimes see this in underserved communities. So take a second to kind of picture them in your mind and maybe write down a quick description of who that is and what do they care most about? What do they want to accomplish? What is that goal or aspiration for them? And we'll wait a minute here while you guys kind of do that, and then we'll jump into that next step. Anything you want to add, Alexis?
No, it's great.
Just don't want to rush through so people have some time to think. Again, a donor to me is someone that embodies the reason your founder started the nonprofit typically, because they are going to be very like-minded in that regard. Wait a couple more seconds. So I'll jump into the next section. Hopefully everyone is good to go. So for the second step, it's what problem are they facing? So what problem is standing in their way? As a donor, why would they not want to jump in immediately and get started? This is the key, because without a problem, there's really no story. It's what's the reason? What's the relevance there? So in our example, so our donor wants to keep children learning to read but feels overwhelmed maybe. They aren't sure which organizations are truly effective. They worry their donations might not make a real impact, or they might not be solving the problem. And maybe an underserved community to help them provide the right reading resources. Are they sharing the right things that are effective, or no? Is it something based on an ideology from 20 years past that is no longer relevant? Problems can be external, like not knowing where to give, or internal, like feeling frustrated and powerless to make a difference. So take a moment to kind of jot down that problem you think your hero is facing and why they would be reluctant to join you. What is preventing them from doing it themselves? Wait a second, people kind of get that down. Anything you want to add on that one, Alexis?
No, this again, it's just a reminder that they probably already have a relationship with you. So it's that connection that they already have, but what's the problem that isn't getting them over that hump?
Great. And I think you keep coming back to the emotional connection, and I think you're absolutely correct there. I think it's so important because, and you talked about this earlier, the statistics they back the argument. They will never be the reason people make a decision. They make a decision based on the emotions that they have around the topic. And so pushing on that, on the heartstrings, is super important. So let's jump into that third step. How does your organization guide them? Now, this is the part where you all kind of take that burden off their shoulders. Now it's because you are guiding them in realizing that dream. So you want to show them the empathy and the authority here. So as an example, you understand that donors want their support to truly change lives. And you have a proven track record of increasing childhood reading scores by 20 or 30% in the communities that you've served in the past. So you can make a difference. You have a actual way, which we'll go over in the next step, but that's the part. So you meet a guide. So what is the trust? How do we create that trust here so they can see you not only can be an effective steward of their donation, but you can make the change that they're looking to create. And I think that when I look at Donald Miller's guide, I think the problem and then the guide part is so big because the plan matters. It does, but it's less about the plan and more about the ending. So people want to see you have a plan because they want to be able to trust that it's a guarantee is what they're trying to achieve. So when we jump into the plan section, great. So you have a guide, you have someone that can kind of walk you through this process. but not 10 steps. It should be 2 or 3, something that's easy, something that's concise, something that I don't have to read an entire novel to understand the difference that you make. Sure, if I want to elect to learn that, you should give me the option to, but it's not something that should be forced upon me to understand your relevance. Um, so choose your donation amount. So ideas are like, yeah, you could choose your donation amount or see how much a gift would funds books or impacts a single student. Receive updates showing the impact you made. Think about the simple plan and offer that you offer your audience and make it easy to understand so that you can easily roll into that next step, which is that call to action. Because it's like, all right, so we understand who you are. We understand this is what you're trying to solve as the problem. We have a guaranteed way of achieving your dreams or wishes by following this plan, and you do it with this. Here's the call to action. It's got to be clear and concise, very direct in the case of a donor. So like a donor should be a clear and concise call to action. A volunteer should be a clear and concise call to action. Give today to help a child unlock a lifetime of learning. Give today to ensure that a child has a fair shake at life and has the opportunity to be whatever they want to be, because reading is one of those building blocks that everything's built upon. I'll wait a minute for people to put together that part. Coming up towards the end. So with the call to action after that, I mean, that helps them avoid failure. I think the failure part, this is one of the biggest motivators to get people moving. So people that might already may be on the fence are like, yeah, it's reminding them, well, if no one takes action, this is what will happen. And I end up actually speaking about this with a lot of the nonprofits I speak to. It's less about why you want to do it, and it's more what happens if you don't. And so this is how we help prioritize some of our initiatives when we work with clients. It's what is the biggest cause and effect if you don't take an action in certain areas, and that can help us prioritize where we're focusing. So if you don't get donations, certain people are not going to get the help they need. And that then allows us to roll back up to that initial dream or aspiration, that same reason that your founder started this. That's the success. That's that end result that you're after, and probably something that you share directly with your constituents, the people you already know in the organization. The reason you signed up for the newsletter in the begin with is because you understand the problem at a very, very deep level. You want to see it come to fruition and you want to make a difference. You just need to trust these people with your money to do it, or with your time, with your partnerships that you've created in whatever areas, whatever that is. So Alexis, anything to add on here? I know I feel like I've run on for a while.
Yeah, no, I would say, and when the last step where we talk about an end in success, this is your impact as well. So if you've got an impact statement, this is where you might tie it in. The success that this story ends in is the impact your organization is making, right? So you can tie that impact statement in there as well. What impact is your organization making on the world? That's the success that the donor, the character, is helping you achieve.
And in this case, of this narrative that we're writing today, I think this is something that you can, well, not think, I know this is something you can share across all those messaging vehicles, whether it's from your website, it's on emails, it's on fundraising campaigns.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Yeah, we'll talk
Sorry if
more on
I
that. Exactly. Yeah.
don't mean to skip ahead. So from there, I would love to see if anyone wants to share some of their thoughts and what you've created. Throw it in chat. Would love to see some of those. By all means, I think I saw a few that they might have removed them as they came in early. No, this can be a lot.
Great.
Comes a few. So I'm reading through a few of them quick, and I'll just bring them up. So Josh, I'm gonna pull yours up with Samaritan first because you were the first to respond. Going over that, I think you have a pretty solid narrative there. I don't see really the avoidance here. Where's the failure? What happens if people don't engage? Is it what is that real life impact that really happens? And I say that because the harder you push there,
Mm.
the more it resonates with your target audience, because that's the real reason. That's the thing they're trying to prevent. That's why they're donating, is to prevent that exact thing. Um, Any sticking out for you, Alexis? I'm just trying
Yeah,
to.
no, that's a great point on that one. Thank you, everyone, for sharing these.
Yeah, I'd say just in general, don't be reluctant to dig hard into the negative connotations of what happens if you don't partner with you, because I think that's just as much of a driving force, because it drives empathy, it drives feelings, all the emotional response around what you do. And you don't start a nonprofit to make money. You do it because you genuinely care. You do it to make a difference. And those are the same reasons that I say push on the negative, because it ladders right back up to the positive. And it's the reason why you want to see success and why you're doing what you do. I'm going to jump into a few other.
And for everyone, I would say use this as a starting point. Keep working through these and keep building on these, and maybe even get a small committee together within your organization to keep building through your story.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. And for those, I mean, most of us are using AI at this point as well, and like ChatGPT.
Mm.
This is definitely a framework you can drop in there, and you can start dropping in your information and help utilize it to give you ideas and wordsmith a little bit. And then I always like to take what I get there though, and again, play it in front of a real human being, because it sometimes it misses the emotional response. Sometimes you don't get that same emphasis or impact on the real reason, that dream or aspiration behind it. It might be more just surface layer deep. So definitely a great way to start, and a great way to get a lot more ideas. But I think you still need to put it in front of your target audience. So you have a core group of people that have really helped support your nonprofit grow and get you where you are today. I would try to do this yourself, and then, to Alexis's point, get your board together and get feedback. Which one resonates most with them? Why? Find out why. What was the reason they donated their time or their money to start with you? Ask them and dig in, because you want to try to distill that down to the most basic emotion. And the more you can do that, you'll really start to get a answer to what that real problem is they're trying to solve for, and what they're trying to avoid to get that success.
And maybe to help you start digging and answering, getting at the root of building this story, ask the questions and start really fleshing out, making sure you can define, what does your organization do? What impact does your organization make? Exactly what support do you need from donors? And this might not be one thing. It might be lots of different things, or two or three different things. And what difference will that support make? And again, this could be a couple different categories. So start really defining that, and then you can work backwards from that maybe and figure out, who are these donors? Are these donors financial donors? Is it really volunteers that you need? So then you can start working backwards and figuring out first, who is that hero? Who is that character? And then working through these steps. But you might need to go through this exercise a little bit slower if you're not at this stage yet, by asking yourself some of these bigger questions, if you think you're not at the stage that we're at today.
And I see Liana Hicks, you asked, you said we're a food bank, and you said our impact is only realized after the clients come through. how do we build a story around that? I think the narrative there, and I could be right or wrong, but when I look at like food banks, the narrative is if your target audience, if they're worried about where their next meal is going to come from, if they're worried about having a roof over their head for that night, how can they focus on anything else? If they have kids, how can they focus on helping them become better, learning to read? How can they do all those things if they don't have the comfort of knowing they're safe and secure that night, or they're it's like living paycheck to paycheck. Meal to meal living doesn't allow you to focus on anything. All you can focus on is where's the next meal coming from. And so if you have kids, if you have anything like that, that's not a way to build a community. That's not something that's going to allow them to grow. That's a way to perpetuate, what's going on. And so if you are a food bank, you're allowing these people in your community to have a fair shake at life. You're allowing them the opportunity that many of us take for granted. Otherwise it's not there. So you have to think about who you're impacting and how you can do it. So why would people do that? Because they generally care that kids can focus on learning instead of where their next meal is coming from. It'd be really hard to focus in school if you haven't eaten. It'd be hard to learn it, like all those pieces. So someone was asking, is the character the hero? No. Well, the character would, yes. Sorry,
Yes.
take that back. The
Yes.
character is the hero in this framework where you're trying to position them as the hero and you're guiding them on how to be that hero. I know I did one of these webinars a little over a year ago, and we used Gandalf from Lord of the Rings because he's kind of the guide through Lord of the Rings as just a spinoff. And how Frodo was the hero, he carried the ring throughout the whole thing, but Gandalf was slightly there to curb and point him in the right direction throughout the whole process to ensure that he made it through the journey and it was achieved. And by the way, if you watch a lot of movies, they all follow
Yeah.
same narratives, and you'd be very surprised how just what because there's the Disney framework, there's all these different frameworks, and they all share a lot of similarities here. It's kind of just how they position things and when it comes in. Some emphasize one area more than the other, but the whole point is to tell a story that resonates easily with your target audience and that they could sympathize with or they easily understand.
Yeah. I'm just conscious of our time and want to make sure we leave some time
Okay.
for questions at the end.
Let's go ahead and jump through.
Yeah.
So let's
think,
see.
I think, and if anyone does have questions, please, I think we should have at least 5 minutes for questions at the end, that we can talk more about this. So what we do want to talk about now is once you work through your story for engaging donors. So this is specifically what we're talking about today is a story to engage donors with your organization. Where do you go from there? How do you connect that story to your fundraising and marketing? So what we're going to talk about next is how to apply that story across all your brand touch points. You probably have events. I'm sure you have a website, social media, email, newsletters, outreach to your donors. We're going to talk about personalizing that story to make sure you're creating an emotional connection, consistency with this brand story, and creating a variety of assets, whether that's in person, in videos, images, etc. So let's talk about how we might do this with some of our clients. This is what TAP and TechSoup does very often with our clients. Some of this you can do internally or in-house, but this is the kind of thing that we do all the time. So we'll just talk about how you might roll this messaging out through your communications. So let's talk about events and speeches, for example. You might open an event or a speech with a donor or a beneficiary story that supports this. This will create an emotional connection from the very first minute of an event. That's a great way to open an event, is to start with a personal story that supports this overall donor story. Social media. Take this story that you've created, break it into bite-sized pieces. Use quotes, visuals, impact stats. Always have a clear call to action. So you can get a lot of traction on social media by breaking this story into lots of different pieces. Email, newsletters, you can always lead with powerful stories and updates using subject lines that reflect urgency and success. Uh, Imagery is great, powerful headlines. Use that emotive connection of your story, and similar to social media, break it into bite-sized pieces. Even similar to what you might see on like the American Heart Association website, for example, how they've broken it into pieces. On your website, this probably should be right up front because everything should be across your website. Feature your story on your homepage, on your donation page, on your About Us page. Make sure that this story is consistently woven throughout your website. Your board, you're making sure that through all your board engagement that your brand story is consistent and understood throughout your board. Use it in your recruitment, use it in your introduction in all your meetings. Make sure you're refocusing your mission and using this story as a consistent communication through all of your internal communications, and that everyone is on board with this story framework. And grant applications, other pieces like this, use the elements of this story to demonstrate your need, your impact, your urgency, especially in the executive summary sections. Incorporate this brand story into all of your employee onboarding. And as I said before, all your internal communications. You have to make sure that all of your internal communications are up to speed, because if everyone isn't on board with this internally, then you can't really expect for it to flow in through your external communications smoothly. So I will also talk about how TechSoup and Tap, how our marketing services specifically enhance storytelling through our content strategy and outreach. Um, Website, obviously we create a lot of websites for our clients. Your website is your story hub. Your website should always be the place that is your host of all things of your story and your brand communications. This is the place that all other communications should come back to your website and be sort of the source of truth for your brand. Your mission should be front and center and inspire action. We build websites that guide visitors through your story and lead them to whatever your primary call to actions are. Donate, sign up, get involved. We work with our clients to define what their core call to actions are and make sure that that's front and center of their website. You want to bring consistency to every channel. Uh, if you feel like you're struggling to keep your messaging aligned, we understand that, and we create branded content strategies that for our clients that carry their message and their story across their email, their social media, their newsletters, all their communications, so that every touch point feels intentional. And we also understand that many of our clients and many non-for-profits don't have storytellers and copywriters and brand strategists on staff. So we work with our clients and understand budget limitations, and we do a lot of incorporating AI powered tools to try to use their resources as efficiently as possible, to try to work within limited budgets to enhance storytelling and help them craft compelling narratives without needing a full communications team. So we just try to understand the needs of our clients and work within whatever their parameters are, and utilize different resources that we've got available to us to work within their parameters. We understand growing donor bases very well and know the need to grow donor bases with confidence. So we design and run campaigns that match our clients' stories with the right audience. So using smart targeting, we drive engagement campaigns to increase donations. plain and simple. So the last point here is showing your impact, not just your effort. So tracking how your story performs, metrics and analytics is so important so that you can see what resonates, optimizing your outreach and reporting back to your funders, your board is essential so that you can learn what's working and optimize all your campaigns. Um, so I think that is just a high level overview, certainly not all of the services, but an overview of how you can make sure that storytelling ties into your content strategy and your outreach. But I think I'll turn it over to Jason if that's okay to talk some more about some of TAP's and TechSoup's services and how we support our clients with some of these services and more.
Sure. I appreciate it, Alexis. Because I know these webinars can go along for a while, so I will be quick here. So we do partner again with thousands of nonprofits through TechSoup and offer services in many ways. So one of the popular ones, if people are really having a hard time with figuring out what they have and what they don't have from a digital marketing perspective, whether it be messaging, if it's outreach, if it's campaign design, is to partner with us to go through a digital marketing and technology audit. These are $3,500, straightforward. The goal here is to understand what you have and what you don't, identify those missing pieces, and give you recommendations on journey mapping, and where you should grow so that you could either then partner with us long term to help implement, or you could simply take that roadmap or blueprint and start implementing it yourself through volunteer work, etc. So great way to kind of get started, or if you have glaring holes and you need help from a marketing team that is very diverse and able to help you in multiple ways. Love to meet with your chat to discuss before you make any purchases here. The next level is, or the next option is, we do one-off projects kind of like that marketing audit, but we also offer fractional support. So if you do find yourself wearing 20, 30 hats and just need to be able to delegate some work and trust it can be done, some of these retainers are really impactful for nonprofits. Just because you can rely on getting these stuff done and focus your time and effort on mission growth and not playing fireman, constantly putting out the biggest fire and never having enough time left in the day. The upgrade package I would look at as more reactive. So for anyone that knows what they need to get done, but they just don't have the time or the expertise to get it done, phenomenal package, because you're kind of like in control of your destiny. You're making requests for what you need, and we're simply just delivering. If you do need more strategic support, you're unsure of where to focus on, you want to be proactively pushed forward and kind of guided more, highly recommend you look at the premium level, because you'll get a dedicated account manager here, and you do get access to some of the higher level support like our design work and copywriting. Both are very impactful. It just depends on the individual need. But what I love here, no long-term contract, straightforward. It's month to month. We're here to help. If we're not helpful, it's not a great, we don't want to, waste your time nor money. Again, if you jump on TechSoup's website, underneath that services tab, anything that's website services, digital marketing services, all of that is us. So feel free to inquire. Would love to meet with you. Same with some of the AI services. Just some ways we can work with you guys. Yes, there's a ton we do. We are a full-scale digital marketing agency. So from CRMs to websites to campaign design to branding, SEO, analytics, custom app development, membership portals. I can go on and on. I don't want to bore you. But the big thing here is that we can help you figure out where your biggest areas are for concern up front and help kind of direct your time and efforts in the corresponding areas. So resources for today, we do have our AI report from 2025 for the benchmark report. I know Zach just posted that, or I thought he did, in chat. There you go. So you have that access to that. It will also have a link in the slides we share out later. This is great if you want to get an idea of how people are using AI in the nonprofit world and get ideas of maybe potential areas for you as well. And there's also the link to get started if you want to book some time with us to discuss. That link, he's also shared a link from my personal calendar as well. So if you find time, want to discuss, we'd be happy to meet with you and see if there's not a way we can collaborate together. So from there, yeah, would love to kind of go into questions and see what questions people have. I'm sure there's a lot.
Yeah, we've got 10 minutes left.
So here, I'm gonna open up the Q&A. So feel free to throw any questions right in the questions area.
And I would like to do something different. If somebody wants to come live, use the raise your hand option, and I'll let Jason and Alexis choose which one, and I'll unmute you.
Sure.
Daniel asked, what CRMs do we suggest?
Great question, Daniel. So we are a HubSpot Platinum partner. Not sure if you're familiar with HubSpot. And someone said, what is a CRM? A constituent management system or constituent
Customer,
relationship management system.
customer relationship, yeah?
Yeah, I use constituent when the
Okay.
nonprofit. You can use both interchangeably, but yes, the idea, think of it as a single source of truth. And it's designed to where you can track everyone that interacts with your nonprofit or your community in one place. So whether that's a donor, a volunteer, someone that's utilizing your resources, all of it. And the idea is it connects to your website, it connects to all your outbound marketing. You can do a lot of your social media management from it. So HubSpot is our preferred CRM. We love using HubSpot for nonprofits. Depending on the level of what you're trying to achieve, it can be a great solution, but it can be cost prohibitive if you're really small. So I'd say if that's something you are considering, let us know, because when we have these discussions on platform design, and when I say platform, it's like all the tools you're using, it's relevant based on where you are in your growth stage. So what website should you be using or building upon? What CRM? Because a precursor to a CRM a lot of times is just like a donation management system. Some people use just like a Give Butter, which we still utilize on tons of our websites, but it's really just a donation management system. That's really what it does. Of course, it's going to do other things because everyone wants to be an all-in-one, but it doesn't do everything really well. So it's just kind of like a stepping stone that you might not completely outgrow. You might start using just in the lane that it's meant to be used for as you go on.
Mm. But HubSpot is very scalable, and I think there's even free accounts, and they do a $45 a month account that's it has a lot of services. So yeah, we think HubSpot has amazing capabilities, and like our small clients all the way to our enterprise clients use it and see a lot of value in it.
Yeah, it has individual hubs. So, and they do offer big nonprofit discounts as well.
Mm.
So I'd say just grab 15 minutes of my calendar. We can discuss what you're actually targeting, what you need, and we can make recommendations on how to proceed there. What other questions come in? That is it.
Ah.
The focus on SEO. SEO is a popular topic. So, and was anonymous. Why should nonprofit with a narrow geographic focus and target audience engage in SEO? I would say SEO is dependent. So first figure out where are you connecting with your target audience. If you have a narrow geographic focus, and because I talk with clients that'll be in like Alaska, for example. Well, you might not be using your cell phone as much in Alaska. Internet access might be spotty here and there. That might not be a good utilization of your time. So it really depends on what you're focusing on and where you're connecting with your clients. If you're finding most of your clients are connecting with you for the first time through a digital means, which is pretty common. I mean, I'm based in Delaware. If I hear of something new or something that creates curiosity in my mind, my first inclination is to pull out my cell phone, go to Google and type it in. And if you do something different, I'm very, very surprised. That's why websites are so important, because it's typically the way we learn about new information. And what I want to know is, one, are you legit? Do you exist? If you don't have a website, I'm like, immediately I'm suspect. But if you do, great. Then it's just, what do you do? Why should I care? And how do I get involved? And I say that because that's why that brand story is so important. Because when you tell the story and you establish your relevance, I can instantly tell, is this something I'm interested in learning more in? Or is this something that's not for me? And that's good in both ways, because you don't want people that it's not for them wasting your time that you could be dedicating to doing other things to grow your nonprofit. So that's a very circular way of answering your SEO question, is it really does depend. SEO can be focusing on that can be wildly momentous when it comes to the right organization, depending on who you're targeting and what you're pushing for. I'd say book some time and we can discuss your individual needs.
I'll answer the HubSpot donation question, and then Shannon will talk to you about messaging. Yes, you do still need something like GiveBot or a donor box, but they integrate with HubSpot. Um, Hopefully that answers the question about that. And Shannon, around messaging and keeping it positive and not getting too negative, that's a tricky one. I think you do need to you, you always do need to really think about your messaging, but sometimes it can be negative. And if your organization is at risk of shutting down, if you don't get support, sometimes you just need to be transparent and say that. Um, and if that is the reality, that is the reality. And maybe you just need to be careful with the way you say it so that you're not maybe saying it too often, or you're not maybe battering people or begging people, but you don't need to sugarcoat it. If that's the reality of your organization and you need donors to step up, I think probably you just need to say that that is the reality.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean,
Mm.
you're leading with honesty and being truthful. If people get upset about you being truthful, they're not the right audience. I mean,
And in particular, in the today's environment, everyone understands that. I think people understand that non-for-profits are struggling, and if 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 you explain to people that you're at risk of having to close down, then I think people will know that you're serious. And I think it's fine to position yourself that way. You don't need to act like everything's great if it's not.
I mean, because I think we all are going through it right now in the US. It's that non-discretionary income there's been a reduction there. And so everyone, whether you're for profit or nonprofit, everyone's vying for that same amount of non-discretionary income, but it just doesn't go as far. So your relevance and the story you tell is now more important than ever, because that is the difference between people choosing to spend it with you or buy season tickets to the Phillies. I mean, it's like where are they going to spend that money? But it's a set amount that they have. It's just where is the money going, and how do they feel at the end of the day on their expense? Because both make them feel good, but in different ways.
Mm,
I know that's a for-profit spin, but it's wild that you end up vying for that same. It's the same income. It's the same pot of money. It's just, hey, are you making them feel better than what they would by going to? They could just watch them on the TV. No big deal.
yeah.
Food for
Yeah,
thought.
maybe that's messaging. Maybe it's what a donation, the difference a donation to your organization can do. So to say $20 or $50 is 10 cups of coffee, or the impact your organization can make with that kind of messaging. Because as Jason said, discretionary income isn't maybe what it used to be, but the impact your organization can make with that, maybe you need people to think, how would I rather spend my money right now? Um, but yes, I think, Shannon, to your point, you might need to sell it to your team to say, we don't always need to be positive. We can say there's a need here, and we need our greater community to step up and help us fulfill our mission, and that's okay. The world understands that.
I agree. It's
I think we're almost at time. Are there any other questions?
I haven't seen any come through. I appreciate everyone's time. Hopefully, you got something out of today. You will receive the slides afterwards, as well as a recording of the discussion. Would love to meet with anyone that is interested in continuing the conversation and having, really discussions around where you can be most impactful here. But the biggest takeaway I would leave you with, and Alexis, you probably agree, is just remember this messaging work is used everywhere you are. And so the more concise and the more standardized you can make this overall message, the more impactful you'll be in everything you do. So I do not think it's a waste of your time. I think if anything, it's probably one of the most important places you can spend time, because this, if you have it neat and concise, you can easily share it with someone with an evangelist, someone that wants to support you, someone that's been there with you thick and thin, and goes, hey, this is what to say, this is our message, and they can easily start helping you grow organically or more grassroots for free.
Yeah. And I
So
think I'll say one more thing. I know we are at time, but I think Jason or Zach has put up a link about doing a website audit. We also do brand audits, which I think was a previous slide, but that is a piece that we can look at your messaging as well. So brand audit often looks at all the various visual pieces of your brand, but we can do a deep dive into messaging and see where the needs are there as well. Again, you can just book into Jason's calendar to start that conversation. All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
have a wonderful day. Thank you, guys.